we'll talk in a second or two about that levy and what it is and what it means. But I do know that all of you get, well, not all of you probably, some of you may be renting, but if you're owning a home, you get a tax bill in the mail every year. And you get a personal property tax, you get a real estate property tax. And if you look down on that, you'll see about fifth or sixth down, I think that's accurate to say, is Mid-Continent Public Library. And in my own case, for my home last year, I got that and I looked down and I looked through the school district, I looked through the city of Lake Chapel-Wingo, I looked through the county, I looked through the school district, and finally I came to the $180 that I was going to owe to Mid-Continent Public Library. And I frankly, I'm a trustee, of course, so I feel good about that. And I did feel good about it because I know the kind of services that Mid-Continent Public Library serves and the efficiency with which they do it. And so I'm pleased that it was only $180 to have library service of the quality that we have had here and are accustomed to for a long time. So with that, I would like to start by introducing Susan Ray, who is our Deputy Director, Steve Potter is our Director, and Steve, unfortunately, is sidelined by COVID right at the moment. We also have a trustee who is online, I believe, Joycelyn Virgo, who is a Jackson County trustee. She is also sidelined by COVID. So let's remember that COVID is still an issue everywhere, and it's touched these trustees and our staff also at this time. So I'd like to introduce our Deputy Director, Susan Ray, and she will introduce the staff who are here, who are the ones really that have put together this budget for review.
What, can you just tell them how many board are here? The trustees?
Yes, I'm sorry. This is Brent Schondelmeyer,
Okay.
and he is a Jackson County trustee. I am John Leaney. I am the treasurer and the trustee. And online is Joycelyn. And online is a Clay County trustee, Michelle Wyckoff, who's also former president of the board. So those are the four that are here, either virtually or in person.
So the other 8 didn't come?
They were not required to come. They're not required to be at the hearing. They were all notified and invited to come, but they chose not to.
Okay.
Okay, yes, thank you. Okay, Susan.
Good morning.
This is Lori Lemunion. I'm here also.
Director. I am going to introduce senior staff that are here. So there's other staff members here. I apologize. I'm not going to go down the whole list of who's here. In the back of the room in the black sweater is Jennifer Ridley. She is our HR director. In the green sweater is Diana Ryder. She's our development director. Off to the side, and many of you probably talked to him on your way in, is Jim Staley. He is our community relations and planning director. Up here, I have Teresa Johnson. She's our internal communications director. Brian Gash. He is our CTO, our chief technology officer, and right now he is running Zoom and our YouTube page right now. And then we have Quan Fong. He is our financial officer, our chief financial officer, and you'll be hearing more from him.
Oh, okay.
Thanks for trying to speak.
Thank you. I just wanted to add one trustee to that. Lori Lemunion is on, and she is a trust. Pardon? Yeah, she is a Clay County trustee also. So Michelle Wyckoff and Lori, they are from Clay County. Okay. We go through quite a process to get to this point, and so we feel pretty confident that we know what we're going to have to spend this coming year. We always leave a little bit. We try not to underestimate that because we don't always know what's going to happen. Just like we didn't know that our director was not going to be here today because of COVID, or one of our trustees was going to be here. Multiply that times 1,000, because that's roughly the number of employees that we have, and you will understand that we don't always know which employees are going to be here and which employees are not, and that's still going on, although it's much better, and I'm happy to report that in terms of health of our employees, why that has improved greatly because of vaccinations have been widespread. We haven't required that, but vaccinations have been widespread. And so we're getting a much better situation with our employees than we had during most of the pandemic. So that's really, really good news. But that budget sets the amount, and the amount that we've set preliminarily, again, this is because of state law, we're required at this time to set an amount and report that amount to the counties, Clay, Platte, and Jackson, so that they can begin to think about, how they would collect this money that we need. But then we'll have to adjust that amount later when the budget's adopted. The budget hasn't been adopted yet. So when the budget's adopted, there may be some changes, there may be some additions or less items than we anticipated. And so we'll have to wait until the budget itself is adopted before we'll absolutely know the final rate. And even then, it'll just be sort of a guess, because the state has a group of laws that for taxing jurisdictions like ours, we have to roll back based on the type of new revenue that's coming in on real property taxes in particular. So until later, and I'll let Juan explain this a little bit more, but until a little bit later, we won't have an absolutely final levy. I will say this, in 2016, thank you, the voters passed Proposition L by large majorities in every county. And that allowed us to have a 40-cent levy total. We so far have been able to operate without using the full 40 cents that were allocated to us. And this year, I'm happy to say we're proposing a 35-cent levy, 5 cents less than the amount that was voted by the public. And we think that amount should be sufficient to allow us to fund the operations of Mid-Continent Public Library through the year, depending upon what happens at the budget adoption and so forth. So with that, I want to turn it over to Juan Fong, who is our absolutely wonderful finance director. And we'd like for him to make a little bit more explanation, cover things that I haven't covered, talk a little bit about the levy and about the budget itself. Okay.
Thank you, John. My name is Huan Fong. I'm the finance director for the library.
Could you stand up?
Okay, sure. I'm the finance director for the library. As required by the state statutes, we have to conduct a public hearing every year before we can set a levy to collect the tax revenue for the new fiscal year. We published a notice for public hearing on KC Star about 10 days ago. We also prepared a proposed budget. We believe the tax levy published on the public hearing notice would produce enough tax revenue to support that proposed budget. We will receive the final assessment from Jackson County, Clay County, and Platte County in August. And after we receive the assessment, we will calculate the tax rate based on the Missouri statutes. And we do not believe the rate will be higher than last year's rate. Although the voter approved the tax rate is 40 cents. Last year, the tax rate was 34.68 cents per 100 assessment. It's a little over 5 cents below voter approved tax rate. And the proposed budget is based on that reduced tax rate, which will give us about $61 million in tax revenue for the next fiscal year. That's my brief introduction about this theory, and we'd like to collect your comments, your feedback for the proposed tax rate and then the budget. Please let me know if you have any questions. Yes.
Is that the budget you discussed at the May board meeting?
Yes,
Same
that's the budget we give. Yes, this is the budget we gave to the library board in May. And we have it available on the public website.
As well as back there.
Okay, but my question, I listened to your board meeting last month, May. And Mr. Cook took objection to about everything in that budget and how it was done.
Can we pause? We want people to come to the podium, We want people to say who they are. We want people to give your address and.
Yeah, and I should say, again, thank you so much for being here. We want to hear from all of you, but we have a limited amount of time.
Sure.
So try to keep your comments as short as possible and as non-repetitive as possible. I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Please give us your name and where you're from.
Vicki Keaton from Whitestone. I listened to that board meeting. And there's a lot of stuff, obviously, I have no knowledge, and I don't know how anybody would, about where Mr. Cook came from, how he got him on the trustees.
You were appointed by Platte County.
Well, I know how the proper way is, but he objected to basically very many things in your budget as you have been doing and preparing each year. And I guess I question why he waits until just before you need to pass the budget to stay operational, that he starts complaining and tearing apart your procedures that you've used over the years. I don't know. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a CPA. I didn't pretend to be, but why not? If he has issues or others on the board have issues with how you're doing the books, why not work through those instead of wanting to? I mean, he finally got to the goal. He wants to cut taxes. I mean, that was, toward the end of his session of speaking, it was he wanted to cut taxes. And I don't want to see taxes cut at the expense of the library, continuing as it has over all these years. Again, if he's got issues with the accounting process, pass the budget, stay on track, do your business, and then work on positive changes in the accounting process. That's all I want to say.
Here.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there others who would? Yeah.
Good morning. Mark Cooper. I live up in Kansas City, but in Platte County. And I've been researching this issue. We have a real mess in Platte County. We have a real mess. And there's other things besides what's happening with Mr. Cook's holding up the library. The discussion by other trustees about the DEI research commissioned by the library as hiring practices as Marxist, the anti-LGBT statements by our trustees, the use of a globalist-driven term, which is a dog whistle often used to identify Jews. So this is a platform, this is an agenda by our Platte County trustees, and it needs to be fought. That's all I have to say.
Morning, thank you for the opportunity to provide comments on the budget. My name is David Park. I'm also a Platte County resident. He lives in Kansas City as well. I've got to say that the Platte County Commissioners have been appointing trustees to the board, have not been appointing trustees that represent my values and my interests. I know that I've attended meetings where one of the trustees, Gordon Cook, was very adamantly opposed to the tax that goes to the public library, that he questioned whether there was a way to reduce that tax, even though it had been approved by the voters. I think historically, Platte County voters approved the tax by almost 60%, over 59%. That was after they had to sue the Platte County commissioners to force them to put it on the ballot in the first place.
All right.
Now, if they're taking steps now to try to damage the library system, I'm very frustrated and upset about that. I know how important these libraries are to the residents of Platte County, and especially if you go out into some of the more rural communities, Dearborn, Edgerton, Camden Point, that have libraries in their community. Those libraries are like an anchoring asset for those communities. But to think any way about trying to cut back on what's going on in those communities, their libraries, for possibly closing any of them. I've heard rumors about possibly closing some. That would be just a horrible outcome. Now, certainly, I think that I've looked at the budget, glanced at the budget. I think it's put together very well. Obviously, have very, very good, dedicated staff that know what they're doing. I would urge the board to approve a budget that will continue to provide the kind of operations that have been provided by this wonderful institution. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you.
My name is Elaine Reynolds. I live in Liberty and have for 36 years. And I have been a patron of the library since I came, and I wanted to commend the board and the staff for the excellence of the system. In Liberty, we've benefited both from the brand new library on Ridge Road and the Woodmeath Library, which is a marvelous resource, both of them. I would urge the board to be leery of cutting taxes for the sake of cutting taxes. One of the things that I imagine that you will discuss is the issue of inflation, that when you did this, when the staff put together this budget, 2 months ago? We had no idea that inflation would still be where it is today, and we don't know where it's going to be next month. So I would urge the board to listen to the staff and pass the budget.
Kathy Reinhardt, retired Clay County assessor. I have worked with this board in the past on values, and this is the only group that has absolutely very little fat in your budget. You just don't have it. And I appreciate the fact that you scrutinize every penny that you get and you utilize it accordingly. And I'm very grateful that you're willing to put up with everything that we pass out to you. So please keep the libraries open if you possibly can. And if you cannot, then maybe Platte County should close some of their libraries, because they seem to be the ones that are objecting to everything. And I would not wish that on anyone. I do not wish that on anyone. Or maybe don't build any more new libraries in Platte County. I know that there are several on the agenda to be built in Platte County. Don't build them, and there's your money. But I've read your budget, I've gone over your budget, and trust me, there's no extra money just being thrown around. You're very, very conservative with the money, and I greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
Others? Yes, ma'am.
No, I'm going to tell you how much you owe.
My name is Laura Kirkendall. I'm currently a Platte County resident. I came to Kansas City with my family in 1986, and we've been patrons of this library ever since. I did leave the Kansas City region to go finish my education, and as a result, I joined other public libraries. The Mid-Continent Public Library System is a crowning achievement for the Kansas City region. Nobody has one like us. Nobody has one that is as thick with resources, with people that are willing to help families who come in, who have kids. Like I lived at Boone's Lake Regional, and they had books on wheels because they didn't have the funding to build buildings. And while we certainly had buildings that were not as well maintained as others, I appreciate that the library has made efforts to make more available resources for our poorer communities versus our richer ones. The Platte County problem is a problem. There are lots of people in Platte County that I have met in the last couple of years who are more invested in the community as a building activity than as a tearing down. The folks that are in charge of Platte County do not represent us, and every effort that we've made to reach out have been ignored. This is what we're left with, and adding more libraries across the board is a benefit to every community in the city. Whatever you have to do to raise those funds, we will support you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Leah Peters. I live in Kansas City, but Platte County. And I am an elementary school teacher. I just finished my 10th year teaching 5th grade for the Park Hill School District. My students use the Mid-Continent Public Library, either digital or physical resource, weekly, if not daily. I am teaching my students to be good consumers of digital information, critical thinkers, and we need excellent, reliable resources. When we do a research project, I start with use your reliable resources, and at the top of that list is the research homework help page for kids and teens. And they learn how to use EBSCOhost and Britannica and how to read and not just go and try to Google something, but you have to actually read something and put your own thoughts together. And without those resources, we also regularly use as a team, calling the library and saying, hey, we're doing a poetry unit. Can you pull books? And getting those black crates delivered to us. And it is a godsend and a lifesaver. And without that, I can't imagine doing my job effectively and taking care of the kids of our community and teaching them what they need to know. So again, as it's been said, our Platte County representatives don't represent our thoughts. So anything that we can do to keep these resources available to our communities, to our teachers is vital.
Good.
Trustees of the board,
Excuse me, could you identify yourself, please?
I will.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I didn't know Director Potter would not be here. Staff of the library, thank you for the opportunity to share these brief remarks. I apologize for my poor speech. I endeavor for improvement. My name is Steve Israelite. My wife Joan and I live at 1113 Long Ridge Road, Lee Summit, Missouri. We moved to Eastern Jackson County in 1971 when I was transferred from Chicago by the Department of Housing and Urban Development. We have been patrons of the library for 50 years, even before consolidation became effective. We love and cherish the library and its services. Libraries civilize and democratize their communities. Nothing to us is more important. We utilize the Mid-Continent services both online and in person at least 4 times a week. It is our lifeline to a significant existence. My career and community involvement has provided me with many opportunities and experiences in the management, operations, budgeting, and government of governmental agencies and nonprofit organizations. I have monitored, regulated, and governed numerous agencies. These lifelong activities do not make me or my analysis and observations necessarily correct, only experienced. My analysis and opinion and observation of the performance of the Mid-Continent Library is that you are operating and governing an outstanding entity. We look forward to reaping the reward for your services for many years to come. And we appreciate you and your work. It is extremely well managed, highly sensitive to customer needs, innovations, flexibility, and a great financial steward for our taxpayers' funds. I commend you all for your efforts in making our library an essential agent and agency of our community. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is John DeFore. I'm a Platte County, Kansas City, Missouri resident, also a candidate for presiding commissioner in Platte County this year. Throughout the past few years, we've had a tax on our school boards. Now we're having a tax from within our library on our libraries, and this is unacceptable. Our library representatives who didn't even have the courtesy to be here today to listen to these speeches are dead set against putting the money towards the library and keeping it running. Our community, the library is important to not only the kids, the elderly, but everybody else that's within our community. And the 4 members of your board don't speak for the people that are in our community, and our commissioners have time to even speak for the people in our community. So I'm asking that you guys pass and, put this budget into place so that we can continue to use our libraries in the Northland. Thank you.
My name is Ann Mesley. I live in Kansas City at 835 West 54th Terrace. And if you would indulge me, since I now live in the Kansas City Library District, I'd like to talk about the library. This library. not Kansas City, this library. First thing is, my niece and nephew and their families live 5 minutes from here. My parents lived 5 minutes from here. I know the community. I am here almost every week. But what I want to talk about is the history. It will be very brief, but I want to talk about why this library system was developed. In 1960s, I worked for the libraries. In the summers, I was in college. And I worked for James Leathers and Mr. Ferguson. And to the life of me, I cannot remember Mr. Ferguson's first name. John, thank you. I was trying to remember. Wonderful people. I will tell you to this day, I do not know their politics. I do not know their faiths. I never saw anything that indicated that those were factors on how they built the library. Why did they build this library system? First, because think about Mr. Leathers and compare him to Crosby Kemper. Whether you like Crosby Kemper or not, and I did, he wanted a professional library that served the needs of the community. And that's what Mr. Leathers wanted. He wanted a professional library. He wanted a library that met the needs of the children and the adults. I remember when I was in the debate class, before I worked there, when I was in college, he always made sure that the library had the books the debaters needed for the subjects they were going to be talking about through the school year. William Chrisman had award-winning students. They won national awards. I cannot tell you that's because he got those books, but he got those books. We always had them. So why did he do it? First, he did care about professional libraries. He cared very much about them locally and nationally. He was involved in it locally and nationally. And he cared about them because, in part, what the libraries did that are now mid-continent, it brought together small, struggling libraries. It helped them to professionalize. They went to national events. I remember one time I wore a little outfit because I was a page at the library conference. And he wanted to be sure that we could have the best materials for these small libraries. He wanted to be sure that we used resources efficiently. What does that mean? If you buy 20 or 30 or 40 books, you get a better rate than if you buy 2 or 3. If you want to have the best technology, which back then would have been mag cards, maybe, but over a period of time meant you had more resources from your tax dollars to stay professional in terms of what you had available. And now I hope, for heaven's sake, that we have all the best technology, and I believe we do, consistent with what we can afford. So that's really what I wanted to tell you, is that what they developed by putting together this library system is what we have now. It took years to get it to the level it is. The last thing we would want to have happen is to lose what we have gained through 50 years. And when you talk about being able to have a library budget come in under that budget, then I will tell you that that is in part because you have all these libraries using their combined resources for better staff, better training, better access to books. And thank you. And again, I will remind you, I never knew what they believed on almost any subject except the benefits and best interests of the library. So with that, thank you. I please would urge you to put whatever politics are involved in this behind and support this library. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's okay. My name is Molly Gallegos. These are my children, Esme and Simon. I just would really want to urge that you don't close these libraries. These are safe places for our children. My kids are safe, but other kids, especially in this community around this library, are not. They don't have somewhere to go. They don't have people that they can go to, but the staff here is amazing. They've helped me raise my children. They've helped raise these communities' children. I can't imagine my life without these libraries. So please, please do not close them. Thank you.
June, and I am a resident of Independence. I'm also a candidate for County Legislator District 3, which is Independence and Sugar Creek mainly, a little bit of Kansas City in the Senate. I want to say that I am happy to hear that you are proposing a 35-cent levy, which is, right now, the people have a very hard tax burden on them. And so anytime that we can lower the tax burden, I think that's a good thing. And I just want you to know, I've been coming to the library forever. When I was a child, my parents took me to the library and I participated in many, many programs. And I believe that helped me learn to read. I also homeschooled my children, so I used the library all the time for all their books. So I just wanted to say, I absolutely am very happy to hear that you're lowering the budget. Although there are some questionable things that the library does have in it. And I'm not sure I agree with that. And I don't think that there's some people in our community that agree with some of the books that are on the shelves currently. I understand that. And I hope that you will listen to the people in their areas of what books they might think are a little too controversial, especially for younger children. But on the other hand, I don't want to see the libraries closed. I absolutely do not want to see that. I think they're an important part of our community, but again, I think it's great that you're thinking about the people of Jackson County in particular and the other areas around by lowering their tax burden.
Nancy Early. I live in between the South Independence Branch and the genealogy line. First, I want to say, you don't look at one of your institutions as a tourist attraction, but it is. The genealogy library draws people into this area from all over the country. I don't think tourism even looks at it. But to speak for me personally, I've always been on the low income end of everything. And the library is the one place that I know I can get any book I want to read. My first experience growing up with people who were somewhat racist, not for their age and time, but for this age and time. And I had an assignment that I wanted to see W.E.B. Du Bois' book. Did I dare bring it home? I did. And it was the library that furnished it. It wasn't Mid-Continent, but I got the book. I carefully hid it under other books. I read it. And I learned things that I'm still using now. I didn't use it for what I bought, what I checked it out for. But the library, to me, provides services I could never afford. For the levy that I would pay, I probably could buy 3 books a year. I have millions at my disposal. I have the internet. I can hook into some place on the East Coast that I could never afford to travel and use those materials. And that makes the library the biggest asset for my tax dollar that there is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Jim Oldebecken. I live in Gladstone on 76 Terrace. My attire today is of an early resident of Clay County. His name is William Boydston. He was one of 12 individuals who fought in the war for independence and made it here late in life. He was 80 years old. Wow, what are you willing to give your life for? What are you willing to risk your family for? Well, I think it was for this government and a better life. The First Amendment has 5 rights. I consider them responsibilities too. You don't use them,
I'm gonna lose them. I see the library as essential to all of them, especially freedom of the press. You know, it's alarming to me that 244 years after the Declaration, we have no expression of the free press in Gladstone. Used to have freedom. Delivered to the House. I asked Jerry Nolte once, presiding commissioner Jerry Nolte, at a Clay County Commission meeting, what his understanding of democracy was, his opinion. And actually all three, I loved his response. It was citizens informed and involved in their government. What better place to be informed than the library? I'm concerned about erosion of the principles of the founding principles of this country over the last week. Missouri Ethics Commission, partisan. Multiple attacks on freedom of information, access to public records. And for what reason? I don't understand that. These are, if you look at the last week in the Kansas City Star editorials, it's there and then this. So let us remember how we started and let us preserve the institutions, the pillars of democracy. I love the library. Thank you for all you do to make possible. I have one more. This is the 200th anniversary of the founding of this county, Clay County. Let us never stop talking about the circumstances under which our state was founded as a state that violated that self-evident truth. There was only one in the Declaration, one self-evident truth. And Clay County was really significant. Thomas Jefferson was very, very beside himself and upset when he learned of the success of the Missouri Compromise, especially in contrast to another Parliament that would have admitted Missouri as a free state. So we have issues of race. We have issues of race right now. I think equality, I think one of the best things we can do to make amends to the people, the families whose generation after generation were subjected to intolerable treatment, all citizens, and it continues. Best thing we can do is invite them to the party. I'm not aware of any person of color that has ever served in my city of Gladstone under city council or in Clay County. And I look around the city, and Gladstone does have a goal, admirable, for diversity and being a welcoming and inclusive community. They are working on it, but we must do more, and we must be especially careful about restricting information about the history of our nation and current opinions related to the worst part of our country and our democracy, our biggest failure, treating people as equals. Thank you.
My name is Donna Ryan, and I worked here most of the time in this building for 27 years. We help a lot of people here that you don't ever realize and that don't show up in the statistics. I remember one time when 3 little girls came in. They were about 10 and 12 and 8, and they were crying on Saturday morning because the parents were gone. They were gone from the home, and their little sister was home throwing up. And they said, "We don't know what to do. What should we do?" So we talked to them about how maybe you could give her some fruit juice or some 7-Up, have her lie down. Can you call your grandma? Finally, they got a neighbor to come over. That never shows up in the statistics, but if the library isn't here as a safe place for kids, that won't happen. And then also, I know many people are upset because we have books about gay people here in the library. I'm sorry, I'm nervous. I can't open my speaker, I'm a reader. When I worked here, I eventually was a branch librarian, but when I started, I just needed a few bucks and went to shelf books. There was a young kid that followed me around. He was a bookshelver too in high school. And he was just realizing that he's a gay kid and that's why he isn't fitting in. And he followed me around. I'd be on this side of the stack shelving and he'd be on this side and talking to me in between. He had such a terrible time. His father didn't let him live in his house. Over time, his father kicked him out, his own father. And he went to his church and his pastor said to him, "We don't need people like you around here." And he was looking for books in the library to help him figure out how in the world to cope with his situation. Kid had a hard time. This was back then. This was like in the early 80s. I think we have more to help such people now. And I think we need to keep it, even if some of you don't like it. I'm sorry you don't like it. Maybe if you get older and face more problems, you'll begin to understand more other kinds of people. And that's what the library is for, to open minds, not to close minds. And we have to keep this open. And I think 35 cents for Pete's sakes. Most people in Platte County have probably better house than I do, and I can afford what I have to pay. I don't think that's said, but I live in Sugar Creek. And thank you.
My name is Carrie Maloney, and I live in Clay County in Northland in Kansas City. And I have 3 children. 2 are now graduates of the North Kansas City High School, or North Kansas City School District, North Kansas City High School, one just a few weeks ago. In October of this year, the school library system was kind of attacked by some parents under the guise of concern for their children. And 2 of my children were brave enough to speak in front of the school board and fight back against the removal of books and content from their libraries. Thankfully, the board sided with the students. I think there were 10 of them that spoke that day and kept in material that the parent association that was complaining found objectionable. I hope that this library board does the same. What does concern me is that we've seen kind of a long game being played with school boards in the area and around the country, and now it's really concerning to see that it's maybe being played with our library boards. And one thing that was being said at the time discussing the removal of books from the school libraries where kids can just go to the public library and get it. And now we're hearing that maybe some books should be removed from the public library too. And that's really, really frightening. So I would encourage the board to pass the budget, to keep materials in that some people find objectionable. That's great, but some people find them objectionable. Someone will find everything objectionable. And we need to keep our libraries as strong as possible. And that is the only way that can be accomplished. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other comments?
Hi,
Actually, that's television.
Hi, my name is Kenny Laverne. I work at Colburn Road Library Center. I only have one point. At one point in my life, I was effectively homeless. And I spent a lot of time at libraries. This was in Colorado, so libraries are not as, there were a few quite a few libraries, but not quite as many out here. It would have been a lot more convenient. But libraries are one of the few places where there is no obligation to spend money to stay. It's not like Starbucks where you have to spend money on coffee and keep refilling it. It's not like McDonald's where you have to buy fries, or Walmart where you have to purchase something to wander the hallways, or a mall where they're gonna eventually kick you out for loitering. You can stay at a library, get a guest pass, sit at a computer for hours and be okay staying there, or read a book in a corner. You're okay there for an entire day and you can come back. Nobody's going to get mad at you for being there. Closing down libraries is getting rid of a safe space, not just for kids or parents, but getting rid of a safe space that's safe from weather and outside elements for people that need computers for resumes, or just need a safe space during the day when they don't have the space, because they're gonna get kicked out from the front of a store. Yeah, just we're getting rid of a place where people can just exist as human beings. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jessie Cattleman. As a former employee here, I just want to speak on the behalf of the current employees and say that there were days that I worked here where I didn't want to come to work, but I did my job every day, despite having differences with my bosses, despite having differences with my colleagues. And I would just encourage you to do your job and revisit the values of this library board, which is that, simply put, libraries are for everyone. I would encourage you to pass the board that was, pass the budget that was put together painstakingly by the staff. And I would encourage you to not misunderstand the purpose that is to take away all discretionary spending from the staff who are the most qualified to spend that money. We don't need to come to the board to ask for every little thing. And I certainly don't think that the board has proven themselves trustworthy of our trust in matters of diversity and inclusion. So I don't think that's in the best interest of the majority of people who work here. And in regards to what you said about people who own, people who rent pay property taxes, and they're the people who would be the most affected by these closings, and the people who own property would be the most affected by the lowering of these taxes. And I don't care about them saving money. I care about people who get help every single day in these libraries who could not get it anywhere else. So I would encourage you to pass it.
Any other comments? Yes.
I'll stand in front of you. My name's Brent Schonemeyer. I live at 3704 South Grand. I am a library trustee from Jackson County. If you have your document here, I'm going to give you some page numbers. I'm going to encourage you to look at these pages. Page 11 is the vote Proposition L. I can write this up on the board. Susan can write this up on the board for me. I'm going to encourage you to look at page 33. This isn't a homework assignment, but I think, I think facts matter and facts are important. So I want to show you some. Page 33 is comparison of how this library does relative to national library systems. I'm going to encourage you to look at page 34. It shows you the actual tax rate. Page 15 is a list of the trustees. Understand is that there are 4 trustees from Platte County, 4 trustees from Clay County, 4 trustees from Jackson County. The This is not proportional to the population, because if the trustees were proportional to the population, there would be 6 trustees from Jackson County, there would be 4 trustees from Clay County, and 2 trustees from Platte County. But that's how it was constructed, Mr. Leathers, and the state law that was created. So just understand, and so that's where we are today. I would encourage you to look at page 60. And that has some some stats about what it is, about what we've done. People talked about how we run a well-managed library system. And I'm going to tell you to look at the number of FTEs from 2011 and 12, where it was 606, we're down to 487. So you have a staff that is doing more, providing high-quality sort of services along the line. So I share these things, and then maybe the most important thing I could do is these are some numbers: 816-547-9425, and that's my phone number. And you can call me, and you can email me, and you can text me, because in some senses, I have, don't call me while I'm talking at the moment, because I'm not gonna answer, but I want to share with you, I believe I've witnessed, been part and heard an extraordinary conversation about what the public purpose of a library is. And I want to tell you that you get it. And that because you get it, you have to value it, you have to cherish it. Sometimes you have to fight for it. You might understand why, but maybe that's a situation where you're at. I don't want people to engage in fear mongering, because in some senses there is sufficient funds within this library budget to keep every library branch open. That is not what's at play. The board has an affirmative obligation to approve the budget. And if we fail to approve the budget, the law will not allow us. One theory is to keep the branches open. I've been on the board for nearly 2 decades. We have had no difficulty adopting a budget in those prior 19 years. So you want to say, well, why are we here? Everybody has their own understanding and their own explanation of what it is that it looks like. So there are sufficient resources here to have you be in the branches. The purposes of Proposition L, that was on page 11, was to provide a beautiful library system with expanded access, expanded hours, Sunday, additional sort of services. I traveled up to Dearborn, I traveled up to Edgerton, I traveled up to Camden Point. And for you folks who travel from Platte County, you get an extra token for fine free or something like that, because it's a long trip. We have a large library system. It's important to understand that. And it's a well-managed library system. It's a library system. It's the second largest political jurisdiction in the state of Missouri, because it's bigger than a congressional district. So in the board conversation that has occurred, and I'm on the finance committee that has not met since April, because the chair has not convened us. And anyway, when we said, well, what happens if we fail to, just indulge me just for a comment, because I want you to hear back from some of us. What's the consequence if we don't adopt a budget? And my response was, well, that would make us no better than Congress, and surely we're no people are better than Congress. So anyway, so we have a budget. A budget has been proposed. A budget is before the board. We may have an alternative budget. Don't know about what it is that might look like, but in some senses, if an alternative budget emerges, I firmly believe as a trustee is that we need to have another public hearing, because the values reflected in that alternative budget will be there for you to provide comment to. What you have before you is the current budget. So thank you for your time. Thanks for your presence. This is on YouTube, and I would encourage you to extend the conversation. Share it with your friends, let other people know or become aware of what occurred here today. Because
Sorry, I can't. I got a new phone, I can't figure out how to turn the sound off.
Because there's days that'll live in your kind of memory. And to my mind, in my time on the library board, this is a day that'll live in my memory.
Next meeting, next gathering, next step.
We have heard there's a library board meeting coming up on Tuesday.
June 21st.
June 21st. June 21st.
5 p.m. 5 p.m.
And the board will take up the adoption of the budget. Although the board has seen it, has had it in your hands for some time, had the opportunity to look at it and so on. But we will then take a vote on the budget at that time. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, in the budget, would it be possible to find money for a flag to be in all rooms like this so we can say the Pledge of Allegiance? And while we're at it, could we have flags in front of our libraries? That's a thought.
I thought they do in the lobbies. Yeah, there is a flag in every lobby.
So it'd be nice to have it so we can say a pledge. Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate very much the attendance of the people here, and I'm grateful for your comments. We feel that way about the library. I echo exactly what my colleague has said. Joycelyn Virgo, who is online now. Joycelyn, do you have any final comments?
She's gone.
Hi, this is Joycelyn Virgo. I also echo
Michelle.
what you said.
Michelle.
And hi, can you hear me? This is Joycelyn.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, yes, I just wanted to say that I echo what my colleagues have said. I've served with both Brent and with John for, as Brent said, a couple of decades, and we've never gotten to the point where a budget has not been adopted. And I hope that we won't see something new. But I echo that this is a well-run, well-managed library system, one of the best in the country, and I've visited many. Not many people go on vacation to visit libraries, but I do so. It is a wonderful system. I've used almost every branch in the system with my kids as we've gone through the years. And I echo what a lot of you believe, that the library is important, not only for learning and enjoyment, but for people to be able to civically engage with their communities and to understand their world. So I thank you all for being there. I planned to be there today, but I got kind of sidelined. But I appreciate you taking the time to come and let us hear what you had to present today. Thank you.
I can't help but comment that Joycelyn, when she first came on this board, was pregnant. That young man that was born has just graduated from high school and is headed for a full scholarship at a Missouri Technical College that will give him a degree in engineering. And we're very proud of that. As a matter of fact, when Joycelyn first came on the board and had that baby, she came to the meetings with the baby, and there was a commissioner from Platte County. I wish I could remember her name now.
Carol.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. But there was a commissioner from Platte County who took the baby and walked the baby while we had our board meetings, so that Joycelyn could fully participate. I couldn't help but say that the young lady with the baby reminded me of that so strongly. Other members of the board are online, and I would ask if they, Noel or Michelle or Lori, would you have any comments to make? Okay, I hear none.
So this is Michelle.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Michelle.
No, I just want to thank everybody for coming, and apologize I couldn't be there in person, but I just had another meeting this morning. So thank everybody. I really appreciate the attendance. I enjoyed listening to everybody, and hope everybody has a wonderful day.
Thank you. Okay, other comments from trustees? Okay, hearing none, I will thank you again for being here. I know you've taken time out of your day to do that, and we greatly appreciate it. And all of your comments will be seriously considered and brought to bear on the meeting in which we adopt the budget. So